Good morning, everyone. My name is Gary Price. I'm here with Rick Anderson and Maria Bonn. We're going to try to spend the next 45 minutes or so chatting to you. Not only we're going to share some open web resources, and we're going to discuss them to some degree from a policy standpoint. All of the resources that we're going to talk about and much more are on this web page, bit.ly, ABP, Anderson Bonn Price in Charleston, CHS. And I'll bring the URL back up at the end of our presentation. So first, I wanted to focus on some open access and look at it from a copyright intellectual property standpoint. The two resources in this area that I wanted to share were one, it's called BASE. Have any of you heard of this? A couple people, but not many. This comes from the Bielefeld University in Germany, and as of about a week, 10 days ago, this database now has information on over 101 million articles and other documents from over 4,779 content sources. In addition to being able to search all of this data and often links to the full text, they also, if you like to create your own search tool or pick and choose, here's a database of all 4,779 targets. If the metadata is available, there is the advanced search page where you can narrow by terms of use, terms of reuse and licensing, and also access, limits to different parts of the article, again, if the metadata is available. So this is based from Bielefeld University in Germany. In the past week, a new resource based on this search tool and other resources became available, and this is called OADOI, Leap Over Tall Paywalls in a Single Bound. So this is leveraging all 101 million articles in that database, often preprints, and you might have noticed very quickly that when you go back to the search, the main homepage, you can give open access documents a boost in the relevancy ranking algorithm. But this makes it even simpler for those of people who have a DOI. You can basically just plug the DOI in, and it will tell you if there's a preprint open access version of the article available using that base search tool, other resources. It's not perfect, but I think as Rick said in our little meeting yesterday, this is kind of a free version of Sci-Hub, taking some of those same concepts. So that is base, API available, and OADOI API available. So I was wanting to ask my colleagues to comment a little bit on these two. Rick? Maria?
Actually, I think my reaction when I saw this was it's an ethical version of Sci-Hub.
Yes.
But the thing that occurs to me when I look at tools like this is there's a lot of conversation among us in libraries right now about how and whether we should be integrating open access resources into our workflows. Shouldn't we be cataloging these things that are available and making them easily findable in our catalogs or other web-based tools? And I look at things like this and I think, no, we should let somebody else do it. We should have a link to OADOI or BASE or whatever. Why on earth would we all, and this really goes back to the questions we've been asking about cataloging for 20 years. You know, why on earth would 500 libraries catalog the same book? When one of us or two of us can catalog that book and share directly with others. So what I find kind of exciting about these tools is that to me they indicate the possibility of a way forward that makes this stuff radically more findable without me having to devote staff time to it.
I have to say that the danger of doing something like this with Gary is he sends you a list of links. Let's talk about these. And then you stay up all night. I used to work in the university press world. We talked a lot about the educated general reader. One of my more cynical colleagues said, yeah, and I think I'm kind of curious, the educated general reader, well maybe the educated general librarian, who follows this world and cares about it, but may not pay attention at the level of detail that Gary does. And so looking at something like this, I'm both struck with wonder and bemusement. What can we do with this kind of thing? But I am also an educator. I teach at the School of Information Sciences at the University of Illinois. And so when I look at these, I think both, what should I tell the kids? And I know that some of the kids are my age. What should I tell the kids about this? And what should they be telling library users about it? How do they lead library users to this kind of tool? And I agree with Rick that when I was first looking at these, I wanted to get on the line with our library director, who I happen to be married to, but said, get this into the catalog or get it onto the library webpage. But it needs to be a kind of seamless integration so that it shows that these are resources in which we have an investment, even if it's not a financial investment, but that can be discovered along with the things which we provide. But that these tools are there to use. How can we integrate them into our systems and services? And the thing that struck me, and maybe this comes into the area of what should the kids be telling library users, is how do the people who most need this kind of thing find it and learn how to use it? I think a lot of our principled advocacy for open access comes from a sense of the needs of what I'll call the information poor. The people who aren't in institutions of higher education, or if they are, they're the ones that can't afford access to all those resources behind the wall. So this, the DOI pop-up, OA I will show this to my students. They'll find it useful. They will find it like, oh, my God, it's kind of a hassle with the proxy server sometime. I can go straight to it this way, great. But then there's the proxy server is there for them. But the kind of person that we like to hold up as benefiting from open access, the mother below the poverty line who's looking for information on her son's sickness. Is she going to know OAI? I'm sorry, about this tool. Well, it would be great if she did. But it may be one of the things we have to be thinking about is our responsibility as librarians to promote and share the availability of these tools and when it's an appropriate time to use them.
Talk a little bit about multimedia content on the open web and tools to access and make better use of it. One is one of my all-time favorite databases that unfortunately C-SPAN doesn't have the resources to make available to promote like they should. This is actually based, the C-SPAN video library is based at Purdue University. And as of this moment, there are over 226,000 hours of video in here. Basically, everything that has ever aired on C-SPAN, all the author interviews, all of the rallies, all of that's available in here. In addition to that, in most cases, so I'll just use Mr. Google himself, in the presentation, I'm searching for a person. I could look at all the appearances Eric Schmidt has made on Google on one page. So here's a presentation, a panel that he was on in June. So in addition to that, I can either find the video like I just did using metadata, or I can search every single word spoken in most of those 226,000 hours. They allow you to keyword search all the transcripts of just about all of that material and find it. Or you can find the video and then search for words in the transcript this way. In addition, for sharing of with others, a professor or a student can, for example, create a customized clip. Move the levers back and forth, say from whatever moment to whatever moment, get a direct URL to that specific clip, host it on the C-SPAN server, share it with others, and they're done. So that's 226,000 hours, thousands of hours of author interviews, political rallies, and of course, congressional hearings and the like. Another resource I want to share that's relatively new is called audiosir.ch. This is a podcast search engine. And as of now, they've got 24,000 episodes of podcasts. This is both a discovery tool for podcasts, and in some cases, you can also use you can do transcript searching. They are using technology developed by a nonprofit. They just made, in the last year, they've made a deal with the Digital Public Library to work with some of those organizations. But Pop-Up Archive works with organizations to take audio and create transcripts, speech to text. So this is also a company that if you have a lot of audio and you want to create transcripts to make it more easily discoverable and searchable, this is an organization you might want to take a look at. So that's that. So those are two examples of multimedia search. It's coming on fast and strong, and now with a relatively low-price organization like Pop-Up Archive out there to allow organizations to create searchable transcripts, I think we'll see even more of it.
So as a very impatient person myself,
Can you turn on your microphones?
is this not on?
No.
Oh. How about that?
No.
Can you hear me now?
Ah, there we go. So what I was going to say is, as a very impatient person, whenever I get referred to a video, a little part of me dies because I don't have 25 minutes to wait for this guy to get to the point, right? And so for me, a tool like this that C-SPAN is offering is really a game changer. The ability not only to search, but to then pull up a transcript of what was said in the video. For the work that I do, this is just huge. And what I hope when I see this is that many other purveyors of audio-visual content will either make use of this back end, or if they want to, come up with their own version of it. But I mean, being able to access C-SPAN videos is not really a game changer. You could pretty much find most, or if not all of these on YouTube, I think. But being able to search the transcripts is huge.
In our profession, as you all know, we talk a lot about information literacy, and that generally involves a component of evaluating resources for their reliability, their credibility. Does this come from a good source? Can I trust this? That's something we worry a lot about. And as I look at the kind of wealth of resources that become available through search tools like this, I mean, they've been out there, but now they're easier to get at, so you can get more of them, right? How many thousands of clips, right? I start to think, but how do we then further our thinking about information credibility to be able to encourage users to evaluate the credibility of multimedia, as well as, it seems like we're pretty comfortable with text, kind of, but that multimedia may add another dimension to our assessment about credibility and reliability. What sort of skills do we need to be equipped with as librarians who are pointing people to resources, and what do we want our users to be equipped with? So I think about those complications when I don't get lost, like searching for my dissertation topic that I wrote 30 years ago. Ooh, if I had had this then, this would have been really cool. And I also think, and this goes back to the previous tools, think about terms of use and copyright considerations. Do we assume that service providers have taken care of that? And if we can find it and see it, that both, you know, we can use these and be in ethical and legal compliance. How do we find out when we pull up one of these resources? What's the trail that leads to the information that we need to make that determination? So I think both way cool and more things to think about, more problems.
Web archiving continues to be a very popular topic and something people are talking about. In the past couple of weeks, this tool, funded by Mellon, went into version 1.0. Webrecorder.io, create high-fidelity interactive recordings of any website you browse. This is a free service, so I won't take the time to log in, but basically, I'll just use the Firefox. I can just start browsing, and every page that I look at through this tool is being recorded for me. So I'll start recording, initializing remote browser, and then you can just see this type of thing. So now you can see every page is being saved to my webrecorder.io account. So I'll look at this page, I'll look at this page, and now I can stop it, and I can go to my temporary collection. Obviously, if I've logged in and created a password, I have this, my own collection. What's great about this is if you log in, so now you can see that everything is saved. If you look at, you probably can't see, but at the very bottom, you can see the page is saved at webrecorder.io. But what I can also do is simply click and download this collection of pages for offline viewing. And I now have a permanent copy of it on my computer. So then I save these collections. I download another tool from webrecorder.io, and now I can play all of those save pages on my local system. So I have a file that I can look at on my own, or I can share with others. And now they have permanent access to these save pages that were saved. For example, I'll look at this page from the NFL.com that was saved on August 30th at 15:02 GMT. Pretty cool, huh? And as of now, I've seen it's from a nonprofit, it's from an arts organization actually, and as I said, Mellon Funding helped make it available. In addition, we all know obviously about the Wayback Machine and their Archive It service, but there are other web archives out there. In the last couple of years, Herbert von de Sample at Los Alamos and others have built a protocol, created a protocol called Memento, and now they have an interface to it called Time Travel. So again, I can now from one interface search multiple web archives. And while the Wayback Machine is great, it doesn't have everything. This tool and another version of it uses the same protocol. It uses the same protocol, just a different interface to it. In this case, from the UK Web Archive, allows me to search multiple archives with a single click. So let me go back to Time Machine, and we'll have it open up here. We'll just go to CNN.com, for example. I can say I want to find CNN from February 8th, 2012, and now it will search multiple. So here's one from the Stanford Web Archive, created exactly on that date. Different versions of it from Archive It, from the Alexandrian Web Archive, the Library of Congress. So this tool allows you to search multiple web archives for pages using a single interface, and also a free service. And you can do it either from timetravelmemento.com, or you can take a look at this another interface. Matter of fact, with this interface, if I can get it, it won't come up. Oh, here we go. There's actually a little bit, there's a bookmarklet that you can move to your toolbar, and you don't even need to type in the page. Whatever page is on your screen, it will run it up against the Memento databases. Any?
Gary, do you know what the revenue is where the revenue is coming from to support this?
Memento, I think it's just a protocol that Los Alamos, that Herbert and others have created that allows the multiple web archives to talk to each other in a single search. So it's a shared protocol.
Whenever I see something like that without advertising, I think somebody's selling my web activity, which personally I don't really care about. I don't do anything on the web that I'm embarrassed for people to know about, but it could be of legitimate concern, for some people.
So for example, here is, again, the University of Utah homepage. Let's see if we get it, Rick's University. But Maria, go ahead, and any comment?
Well, the web recorder, the thing I resonated to first,
Right.
I wonder if some of you do as well, is like, ooh, what a great teaching tool. And I thought about sometimes inconvenience and sometimes perils of running live demos and live searches. So here, let me show you how to do that. Well, maybe you do it once and get it just right. And then you have it stored so you can make use of it again. But also, I mean, I think the sharing piece is very valuable. So if you have something that you know your users are getting wrong time and time again, maybe because of your crummy interface, whatever, you can do it right and show them, oh, this is how you do this. This is how you find that out. So I was quite excited by that. When we looked at the Time Traveler, the thing I spent last night doing was I ran one of the earlier library publishing operations. We started around 2000, a little earlier actually, and we changed our name and logo and URL at some point, and our earliest representation of ourselves is lost as far as I can tell, unless it's buried somewhere deep in my personal archive in some HTML pages. And there's now a library publishing coalition, there's many members, and I was giving a talk and I thought, oh, I should show them this is what we were thinking about in the first days. Well, couldn't find it, right? So I thought, okay, this could help me solve my problem. It did. But I also thought, and then I'm no longer at the University of Michigan Library where this happened. Once it's turned up, Time Travelers helped me recover it. Does it become the University of Michigan Library's responsibility to archive this thing that's been found? Because we're a library. That's what we do, right? Especially with our own history. Or do we say, somebody's taking care of that? And that kind of goes back to the thing that Rick started with. Like, how much should we own this activity and its product? And how much should we trust that, oh, we like Herbert, he's a good guy. He's taking care of it.
I also want to mention real quickly, back to mentioning the Wayback Machine, which we all know. One thing that often goes unnoticed, though, and I like to do this to make sure that the copy or the report that I might be sharing with somebody or the document, the web page, I know that the copy that I saw at that moment in time is available. And I might use Web Recorder, but another thing I could do and also share it with the world is I can just take any URL of any web page or any PDF that doesn't have robots.txt associated with it, drop it into the Save Page Now box, and the Wayback Machine web crawler will come to it at that exact moment and make a copy of it and add it to the Wayback Machine. The segue into another area is we're seeing the camera phone become an information provider, and then of course image recognition, which brings up all sorts of privacy issues. But two tools that I'll just mention very briefly. One is called PhotoMath. This is actually a point-and-camera operation, a point-and-shoot operation. You don't even have to be online. You point your phone camera at any math problem or algebra equation, and just by pointing at it, it will solve the equation or math problem instantly. And yes, Rick, right. This also gets those of us who didn't do well in algebra or whose teachers kept, we need to see your work. This will actually show the steps used to solve the equation. As you can see, they just added the feature where, and now it used to be that you had to have it in a printed book. As you can see now, they just added handwriting recognition to it. Getting more into image recognition and finding people and the like, and actually showing products. This is what I found to be one of the better apps for it. It works obviously with Android and with iOS. But basically, this is just point your camera at something, and it will use their database, their algorithm, to try to determine what it is, and then run it against the search tool. I can say that I have actually pointed the camera at the television, and it has been able to recognize celebrities just by pointing the camera at the television, and then runs the search against their database. So image recognition is getting, as we all know, is getting better and better and better, and this is an example of it, really a tool that we could use and gives us people an idea of what's coming very quickly. That's it for that section.
I guess I would just add that I've had mixed feelings about image recognition for a long time. Whenever I'm on Facebook and I'm tagging a photo and I mouse over one of my kids and Facebook says, "Oh, is this your son Tucker?" You know, there's a part of me that goes, "Thank you for not making me scroll through a list of my friends," and there's a part of me that goes, "Ooh."
Right, they know his face.
Yeah.
The math application, every parent in the room feels the same way, right? cool, gotta show this to my kid. No, I can't show it. And we were talking about this right before the session began, that I have an 11-year-old who is deep into algebra, just getting introduced to trig, and I try to help him with his homework, not always successfully. Well, this is gonna solve a lot of problems. And then I had that immediate concern about people still need to know how to think. Right? We need to know how to solve these problems. And I both left at myself thinking, okay, this was what my parents were saying when they first allowed us to bring a calculator into math. Right? So, we used to have to do that with pencil and paper. And slide rule. So I thought, don't be old-fashioned, Maria. But we want people to understand the principles at work behind what the machine does, and I suppose that's I was comforted by the showing the work piece of it. But again, it left me thinking, what should people still be doing, and why do we say that? Should people still be doing this? And the photo recognition app. I don't think we scrolled all the way down, but at the bottom there's the thing about see what people are searching now, and this may segue into our privacy conversation. Yes, what are other people searching around the world? And I was sort of speculating, why do we care? Why do we want to know what other people are searching around the world? Is it that we're a little insecure and we think other people are always cooler or smarter than we are? They must be looking for something I should know about, but I haven't thought to know about it. Or is it a desire to sort of know what's going on in the cultural, political, social landscape? And this is a general question I have about the services available to us online, the what's trending now. Why do we want to know so much what the crowd is doing? And this is not at all not to say it's not valuable, but I wonder about the reasons that we go in and we want to find these things.
In our remaining time, I want to just point out that I have a bunch of reading things here for you regarding privacy, which could be in the conference unto itself. I do have a couple tools. One thing I want to say about privacy is that everybody's got a different threshold, a different comfort level. But I really do believe that ethics issues, the fact that reader privacy is number 3 on the ALA ethics statement and the same on most other country ethics statements and library organizations. All that aside, I think the library community, we're always trying to find new ways to be relevant. I can't think of a topic that's been in the mainstream news more than digital privacy in the last couple of years, and I think we could be serving our communities and become kind of a digital privacy clearinghouse. Share with people what's going on, update them, provide them with the tools, whether that be having them come into the library, us reaching out. But I think people do trust librarians. We see that all the time, and I think informing the public about what's going on and our users about what's going on, it could be very, very valuable and very relevant to their lives. One tool to help you learn more about digital privacy is called Browser Spy. And this tool will go through all these different things and shows up and will show you some of the different information and types of information that your browser is outputting that other people could see if they have the right tools. This is different than what I showed last year at the presentation when I had the Wi-Fi traffic going over for those of you who are in the room, I was able to show the Wi-Fi traffic, all the unencrypted Wi-Fi traffic going out over the router in the center over there. This is other information that somebody could pick up from your browser, and it's often being sent when you request a web page. Everything from what the color capabilities of your browser to your connections, of course, all of the cookies. One term that you might want to look at, and there's some papers there, which is a new form of tracking people on the internet, is fingerprinting. There are all different types of fingerprinting which can provide a specific person. And it's also been shown time after time, and this is different than it was years ago, but with enough anonymized data points, you can pretty much figure out who the person is. And those bring up all sorts of surveillance issues as well. So Browser Spy is a tool that can be very informative in terms of learning more about what information you're sending out. I've also given you links to a couple of tools that again, depending on the user and their comfort level, can help block some of this information from going out. So there's Ghostery, which is also a very useful educational tool to help you turn off JavaScript and other third-party trackers. There are companies out there that have cookies and other tools set up on web pages. These companies often come and go. They provide little information, and they're tracking everything that you're doing online. So there are a couple of tools out there that help block either all of it or selectively block some of these types of trackers and JavaScripts and the like. Privacy Badger, for example, comes from the EFF. There's a great page on the Google website. Google has more information about this than we can even imagine, but this is their privacy dashboard. One thing you can do here is look at what they're tracking and turn things on and off. For example, every time you do a search on Google, the default is turned on, but they're saving a copy of it specific to the IP address of where you're running that search from. They have that in perpetuity unless you turn it off or selectively go in there and remove material. So the Google Privacy Dashboard is a good place to begin. As I mentioned a moment ago, every time we search, there's an IP address that's sent out. There are tools out there that have mapped, some better than others, depending on the location, but there are tools out there, like for example this one, that are these geo-IP databases. In some cases, they're down. For example, I was recently in Monterey, California. It actually didn't even say, like here we know that this IP address from this hotel is located in Charleston. These are these disparate pieces of information that can now be all merged together. In the case of when I was speaking in Monterey, California, it was not only that I was in Monterey, but I was actually in the Marriott Hotel in Monterey. That all that information is going out there. With a little bit of knowledge, the end user can determine if this is an issue for them and what to do about it. And then I've given you a couple of other apps. Issues for the library specifically are, what are we doing if we have cameras in the library? I've given you links to a couple of academic articles about that. We're sharing a lot of data with Google Analytics. Some libraries are thinking, are using, and others are using the very robust open search package. Also in the last year or so, the ALA has released privacy guidelines, reader privacy guidelines for the K-12 community. Are we going to see something similar in academics? And also privacy guidelines for ebook lending and digital content vendors. But I'd like to get my colleagues some general thoughts in our remaining time about library privacy. Be brief, yeah.
Oh gosh, this is dangerous. When we regrouped a little bit yesterday, just, okay, we all on the same page for tomorrow. We spent a long time talking about privacy. But one thing I was left thinking about was how I was in academic libraries in the library for about 20 years. And I was involved in many really good soul-searching conversations about achieving the right balance between respecting or protecting patron privacy and building intelligent and informed, particularly web services. They want recommender services. If they want it like Amazon, we have to know what they're searching for in the catalog. So that means we have to keep that data. How long should we keep that data? These were all great conversations, and I think they should continue. But what I worry is that we have them and think, yeah, we're thinking about privacy, when it's also the library's responsibility to educate our patrons so they can make their own judgments about privacy, when to opt in, when to opt out, when do they need to take steps to protect themselves. And I'm anxious that we not abjure that responsibility because these things are gnarly and complicated. That's exactly why we should embrace it.
Right.
Great point. I guess when I think about libraries and patron privacy, I find myself feeling really strongly about two kind of mirror image issues. One of them is that obviously as the library, we have got to be incredibly careful about how we manage the data about them that our patrons entrust to us. And they do entrust some potentially sensitive data. The other thing that I feel like we have to be really careful about is not arrogating to ourselves choices that are our patrons to make about their privacy. And sometimes in conversation with colleagues, I will hear people saying, well, we don't offer that product because it requires patrons to give up too much of their privacy. And I think, dang, I'm just not sure that's a choice that it's your place to make for the patron. And so I feel like these are genuinely difficult questions in which important principles are to some degree in tension with each other. And it's something that I struggle with all the time in my own mind.
All right. I think it's time. We have about 7 or 8 minutes left for questions. We'd love to answer some. We have a microphone, or just shout it out?
I'm not sure there is a microphone.
No microphone. We could use this one, I guess. But then we don't have one to answer.
Okay. Can you hear me? Is it working? Yes. Okay. Any questions? Any questions about privacy? Well, I would have thought there might be views from librarians present. Yes, a good person is going to ask a question. Say who you are, please.
I'm Jackson. Yes. I'd like to raise a question about the comment that was made. The complication that I see about libraries making a decision to subscribe or not to subscribe because the vendor is asking for too much information. When students enroll within a university, and I realize that in local parenthesis no longer, but they basically believe that they're going into a trusted and protected environment. And with that being the case, it makes it very complex for librarians, I think, not to be involved in making decisions like that unless we educate students and their parents about disclaimers when they enroll in higher education. So I'm a little bit concerned that we should take our hands off, and that's because of the expectations of where parents are sending their children and what the teenagers believe when they're coming. I mean, they are not really adults. They evolve into adults while they are there. And so this protective expectation is something that I think we need to deal with seriously.
Thanks, Ruth. That's a really good comment.
I'll take this up to this.
Oh. All right. One thing I should add is that I do feel strongly that if we are offering products that are going to require students to give up personal information, that one very real obligation we have is to make sure that they know that up front, that they are told before they use the product, by using this product, you are going to be sharing this kind of information about yourself. You make an interesting point about whether or not students are adults. I think, I think just about every college student is legally an adult. The question, I think, is whether they're grown-ups. I'm not 100% certain that I'm a grown-up, but their legal status as adults does, in fact, give them rights to do certain things that we need to be careful about infringing on. Again, Ruth, I agree with you that this is complex, and I'm not here to propose any simple solution to this issue.
I'll just add, I was thinking about how many colleges and universities, not all, but many have a required sort of library instruction, or at least it's part of orientation, or maybe it's connected to one of the freshman classes. And I'm curious as to whether in any of those classes these issues are even brought up. Yeah.
I'm just saying it's not required.
Blinked.
No, I think that's a great idea. I'm Danette Patchner from Duke University. We don't have a required course, okay? So we've lost that. Even for graduate students, we don't have required courses anymore. So I think we have to find other ways to get that information across.
Behind you.
Behind me. Oh. Creeping up behind me, eh?
Hi, I'm Karen King from the University of Virginia. I wanted to point out that they are required, new students, to do an IT orientation in order for them to get their passwords and access. So this might be an opportunity for us to partner and to work together on coordinating appropriate messages and an opportunity to educate students. And maybe if we standardized a message, then they would be aware of that at that point, such that if it came up, they would be familiar with that. So just an idea of partnering with IT.
Another question here.
Well, I just wanted to comment, Melissa Belvati from the University of Prince Edward Island. Within the context of our institutions, I don't know what's going on everywhere else. I know in my institution, there's a great deal of interest from the recruitment and retention office to actually do far more tracking of users, to the point where they want to start collecting data every time a student swipes their card to go into any student to the sports center. They want to start having these swipe things so that anytime they use the writing center services or the health services or anything, they're always swiping their card, and with an entirely benign purpose of being able to track the students' engagement with the various services on campus so that they can identify students who are struggling and reach out to them and all the rest of it. And that really freaks me out.
There's another person being freaked out over here.
Just on that topic, because it's so big, I'm from Utah State University, and we've just, the university has purchased a huge analytics package to do those very things. And the real issue for us is that we're functionally invisible to the university if we're not in that system, where they have, okay, when they go to the writing center, we have data that shows that that benefits students. If we're not on their list of services that has a measurable impact, then, you know, we're going to lose funding or whatever, you know, how far to the future.
Now you could say something.
We're just about at 10:30.
No, it's 3 minutes to go.
Okay.
Might as well make use of the time.
Sure. I'll turn one question back at you, and this may fall out from Rick's point. Do the students care?
Yeah.
How much do they care? You know, I live with my 87-year-old mother, too, and I try to talk to her about these things once in a while because she's confused about why the shoes that she browsed at Land's End now keep showing up in her favorite blog all the time. And I talk about privacy issues, and she says, oh, I just don't have much that anybody would be interested in. I'm 87, for God's sakes. I look at pictures of my grandkids. And then, you know, and I wonder if that kind of attitude is in our students who have grown up with a level of, I won't say surveillance, but of being tracked digitally and generating data that is collected and analyzed just as a byproduct of their everyday life. Is it as alarming to them as it is to some of us in this room?
Sorry, there's just one, we've got 2 minutes. So if anybody has any questions on any other points, please, would you like to ask them now? Stephen, you've got a question you want to ask. No, it looks as if you've got no questions to answer. So, Gary, are you going to sum up?
Thank you for coming. Especially in the area of privacy, it changes all the time. I run a site for Library Journal that I started, now part of Library Journal, called InfoDOCKET, that I update a lot of these resources, both resources and privacy information. All these articles were part of InfoDOCKET. So use this page, take a look. I think one thing that we will all agree on is the first thing that we need to do to make the library more of a privacy-centered organization is for us to learn the ins and outs and keep current on what's going on. So it's easier said than done, but I think it's important. Take a look at the page, and thank you for coming. Thank you, Rick and Maria, for joining me.
And before he finishes, I find InfoDOCKET absolutely necessary. And
Thank you
I
very
think
much.
we should thank Gary particularly for being so modest.
Thank you. You get your own feed. You get your private InfoDOCKET. Thank you.